Imagine every single human being alive today fitting inside one concert hall. Not a big arena. A concert hall. That's exactly what the human species was once reduced to, roughly 10,000 people. Every human alive today descended from that tiny group. And the proof is in your DNA, right now. 74,000 years ago, the world looked very different. No cities. No farms. No written language. Small groups of people moved across Africa and Eurasia, tracking animals, following rivers. Their entire focus was survival, food, water, safety. One day at a time. Most groups were small, maybe 20 or 30 people, sometimes fewer. They covered enormous distances across their lifetimes. But they were spread, incredibly thin, across millions of square miles. None of them knew what was building 4,000 miles away on an island in Southeast Asia. On the island of Sumatra, deep underground, something had been accumulating pressure for centuries. A supervolcano isn't like a regular volcano. A regular volcano can destroy a region. A supervolcano can change the climate of an entire planet. Toba was a supervolcano. It sat beneath the island of Sumatra. The eruption lasted 9 to 14 days. The ash column punched 32 kilometers into the sky, 3 times the height any commercial plane reaches. Below ground, 5 separate chambers of molten rock had been building pressure for centuries before this moment. Mount St. Helens in 1980 blew the top off a mountain and flattened forests across several states. Toba released 11,000 times more force than that. More than 215 times larger than the biggest eruption of the entire 20th century. The largest explosive eruption the Earth has seen in the past 2.5 million years. To understand what that scale means, picture the Indian subcontinent. The entire Indian subcontinent was buried under a layer of ash, several centimeters thick. Every surface, every river, every field. The ash cloud didn't stop at the coastline, it kept spreading. Within weeks, sulfur and rock dust were circling the entire globe, high in the sky. A thin layer of particles, planet-wide, now sat between the sun and the Earth. The result is called a volcanic winter. Sunlight that would normally reach the ground was scattered back into space. Temperatures dropped globally, between 3 and 5 degrees Celsius. And those lower temperatures held for years, not months. In parts of the northern hemisphere, models suggest the drop reached 10 degrees in the first year. Growing seasons vanished. Rivers froze earlier. Snow fell where it hadn't before. The sky wasn't fully dark, but it was dim for years on end. Now think about what that means for every living thing. Plants are powered by sunlight. Less light means less growth. Across large parts of the world, plant life began to fail. The animals that ate those plants began to starve. The animals that hunted them began to starve. Every level of the food chain was under pressure at once. Ecosystems that had taken thousands of years to build were collapsing within generations. For the small groups of people scattered across the planet, this was nearly the end. That's not an exaggeration. The evidence is in our DNA, in every human alive today. And the human population crashed. Every species carries a range of inherited traits: height, disease resistance, countless others. That range is what lets a species keep adapting and surviving over generations. The wider the range, the better the chances that some individuals survive any given catastrophe. For humans, that range narrowed to almost nothing. The best estimate between 3,000 and 10,000 people. A total. Across the whole planet. A mid-sized company today has more employees than that. Think of it this way. Imagine every human trait is a book in a library with millions of volumes. A catastrophe reduces that library to a few hundred surviving books. Every human born after that moment, including you, draws only from those few hundred. The survivors weren't randomly distributed. Evidence from southern Africa points to populations that lived near the coast. Near the coast, the food supply was different. Shellfish, sea snails, fish, marine food available year-round. The volcanic winter could darken the sky, but it couldn't drain the sea. Small groups, sheltered by geography and a steady food supply, held on. They were in the right places, at the right time. They survived. They had children. Those children had children. From that dangerously small group, every human alive today descended. All 8 billion of us. Scientists spent decades building what they called the Toba catastrophe theory. It became the standard explanation. Toba erupted and nearly ended us. Then archaeologists started finding things that didn't fit. In South Africa and India, they found stone tools made before the eruption. And in the same sites, they found more stone tools made after the eruption. No gap. No sign of disruption. Just people still making tools. In those regions, people apparently kept working right through the worst of it. A 2021 study, using updated climate models, found something else. The cooling wasn't even across the globe. Parts of the northern hemisphere dropped around 4 degrees Celsius. But most of the southern hemisphere, barely any cooling at all. And one analysis argued, the drop in human genetic variety wasn't a sudden crash. It described a slow, long narrowing, one that had been underway for tens of thousands of years. The people alive at that time, the analysis noted, were adaptable and mobile. They weren't sitting still, waiting to be wiped out. So did Toba cause the near extinction? Or was it just the backdrop to a collapse that was already underway? Scientists are still working it out. The ash settled, and the skies eventually cleared. But the mark Toba left is in every human body on the planet. Every person you've ever met carries the narrowness of that moment in their DNA. The full explanation for how they survived is still being worked out. That might be the most honest thing science can tell us. See you in the next one.